I'm Dennis Everson, so you know my name, and you are.
And I'm Randall Phillips.
And Randall, one of the things that we wanted to talk about was some of the health issues that you've been going through and some of the struggles you have with that, victories, issues, and just kind of share with people what it's like, because I know you have to do dialysis, and if someone isn't familiar with that, if they don't have a family member that does it, or if they don't, they hear the word, but they don't really know what that's like. So maybe you could share a little bit about that.
A lot of people are really foggy on what dialysis is. I've heard people say things like, well, aren't you sorry you drank all the time?
Oh, yeah.
Dialysis doesn't have anything to do with alcohol. It's when your kidneys fail, and they can fail for several reasons.
Mm-hmm.
With me, it was a reaction to some new diabetic medicine.
Okay.
That did them in, but there are people who have genetically, it's a genetic thing with their parents,
Mm-hmm.
and they've inherited a genetic problem with their kidneys, and some other things can go on too.
Absolutely.
But basically, what happens is they have to take your blood and run it through a filter that takes out the impurities and the water from whatever Pepsi or whatever you drank that day, and then returns your blood to you. And it's kind of an involved process. You have to have a access installed, usually in your arm. And
this is something that's permanent, or is this something when you go in?
Well,
it depends on...
It's sort of permanent. I'm on my second access in almost 11 years. So they're not something that just comes and goes.
Sure.
But they do wear out, and you have to have them replaced. But they, with this access, they put two big needles in your arm. One to take the blood out and one to put it back in. And you just sit there and let the machine run for about, in my case, it's 4.5 hours.
Wow.
It varies depending on, how big a person you are.
Sure.
That sort of thing. But for me, it's 4.5 hours. And this happens 3 times a week.
Wow.
So
that pretty much takes care of that day, I guess, for the most part.
Well, considering that you're usually not feeling your best when you come off of the machine, it lowers your blood pressure, and you come off, most people come off lightheaded, dizzy, kind of nauseous, and just tired. It wears you out.
Yeah.
So it's pretty well eats your day. Your day's pretty well done. On dialysis days, you don't really figure on doing anything else.
Right, yeah. And that's 3 days a week that you're doing it.
3 days a week, yes.
I guess now, for most people, does it vary depending on, or is it generally around that?
Everybody, just about everybody does 3 days a week.
Yeah.
There are varieties of dialysis that you do. If you're doing home dialysis, for example, which is the same thing, but it runs a little slower.
Okay.
And you basically hook it up when you go to bed, and you do that 6 days a week.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it runs while you're sleeping.
So basically it's replacing what your kidney's not able to do in filtering things out.
It's attempting to replace it.
Trying to.
Your natural kidneys do a much better job of cleaning your blood. And of course, they're working all the time instead of every other day.
Yeah.
So that's a lot better for your blood pressure and that sort of things.
And then does that affect your diet quite a bit too? Do you have to watch eating, drinking, things like that?
There are specific things that you have to avoid or be very limited with. Dialysis does not do a good job of taking phosphorus or potassium out of your system.
Okay.
Most meats are high in phosphorus.
Yeah.
Most fruits are high in potassium.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to, for example, bananas are forbidden.
Yeah, because people, when they want potassium, they go to a banana first thing is what they think of. Yeah.
There are other things that are high in potassium, but that's one that everyone thinks of. So you have to avoid those, and there are some things that are safer than others. Apples are pretty safe. Celery is pretty safe, things like that. But
Not the most fun food to be eating.
no,
Celery.
and, it's kind of an odd diet because on one hand you have to be very careful about your protein intake. But on the other hand, since you're doing dialysis and you lose blood every time, they want you to have high protein.
Oh, sure.
So, one thing kind of militates against the other.
So now with the ones that it doesn't filter as good, like the potassium, for instance, is there something then you have to do to supplement the dialysis for that, or is it?
Well, with the phosphorus, it does a really poor job with that, and so what you have to do is they give you these pills to take, and you have to take a bunch of them, and you have to take them every time you eat. They're called binders, and what they do is they latch onto the phosphorus in your system and don't let your body absorb it.
Okay. Yeah, I think people might be familiar with that. They have ones they'll talk about with fat cells or different things that people will try that are supposed to bind with something and take it out. But some of them I don't know are really that
These
legit.
actually do bind with potassium,
Right.
and just take it on through your system, so that your body doesn't absorb it.
And then I imagine they're having to test your blood pretty much like all the time when you're doing it, or
Well, they test about, unless you're having a problem, they test you once a month.
once a month. And
But if you're having some kind of issue, they'll test you
Sure.
more often than that. But yeah, fortunately, they don't have to stick you with yet another needle for that. They can just take the blood out
Right.
of the line that's going through the system.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, and like you were saying with kidney failure or issues with the kidney, there's lots of things that can cause that. I know my dad, before he passed away, was having some other issues, and it started to make his kidney sit down. And actually, my mom just yesterday, the day before, had gotten dehydrated, and then it made her kidneys getting very sluggish, and they weren't working right, and it was really throwing her off. And I didn't think, like you were saying, a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of things, and for you, medication that you were taking to try to help you be healthy with the diabetes ended up leading to all those complications. So how long have you been dealing with this?
Dealing with the complications in general, 14 years, I guess.
Wow.
But with the dialysis per se, 10 and a half years.
Wow.
Yeah, I worked around it for a while. For a few years, I could, manage it with diet and just being really careful and stuff. But about 11 years ago, I came down with the flu, a really bad case of the flu, and that just finished off,
Right.
the process anyway.
Yeah, whenever our systems are weak and we're having issues, then something else comes in, and that can really throw things off. And now, I guess the one of the things that, or the only way, I guess, that someone can deal with that, there's really, I don't think they have any way for kidneys to get healthy that are not working that I know of.
It does happen, but it's a really rare thing.
Yeah.
And it's usually somebody who's had their kidneys shut down from some kind of accident or from dehydration.
Something like that.
Yeah, I've known of 2 cases in the 10 years I've been doing it, people whose kidney function returned out of probably 200 people I've known.
And then the other option is, or I guess the main option is
A transplant.
Yeah.
Yeah, so far that's the only other, you either do dialysis or you do a transplant, that's it.
And I know